You are Locked On 49ers Postcast, part of Locked On Sports San Francisco on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yo, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. You may know me as the former producer for the Murph and Mac Morning Show on KMBR, and today the San Francisco 49ers desperately needed a win, and they got it, 30-24 over the rival Dallas Cowboys after a disappointing first half in which the defense was repeatedly gashed on the ground and the offense consistently stalled out around midfield. Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers offense rattled off 3 consecutive touchdown drives after halftime, while the defense turned up the intensity and kept the Cowboys off the scoreboard entirely in that third quarter. The 49ers picked up a few more injuries despite the big win. Both Deebo Samuel and Jordan Mason exited this game with injuries. How many injuries can Deebo get in 1 year? Big story today, though. Big halftime adjustments lead to a big win for the 49ers. We'll break it all down, but first I want to thank all of you for watching us on the Locked On Sports San Francisco YouTube channel. Please, 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 if you aren't already subscribed, hit that subscribe button right now. Thanks also for listening on the Locked On 49ers podcast feed and making us your first listen following these 49ers games. Make sure to check out the Locked On 49ers Daily Show for more in-depth coverage. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. And right away, this game seemed off for the 49ers, as most of them have kind of seemed this year. The 49ers' very, very first play, not even from scrimmage, the very first play, the kickoff, they pick up a penalty on special teams, and it was it just seemed clunky. The whole day, the Niners just kind of seemed out of sorts, especially in that first half. They really turned it on in that second half, but that first half really concerned me, especially the way that the run defense came out, because this was a Dallas Cowboys team that offensive line has not been playing great. They've been allowing a ton of pressure. Look what happened last week against the Detroit Lions, and they didn't even have Aiden Hutchinson. And as they won't for the majority of the season. That was an absolutely terrible injury for a really promising young guy, and I'll leave that for the Locked On Lions podcast to cover. But man, just a bummer to watch anyone go down like that. Anyone in the NFL who's having that kind of a year, just a bummer. But point being, even without that guy, the Lions made the Cowboys look like a Pop Warner team, and in the 49ers out there, the Cowboys didn't have Rico Dowdle as their starting running back today. You had Ezekiel Elliott, who's still eating apparently, because dude looks like he's put on, like he and me might weigh the same right about now, eating all that cereal after, I guess, not scoring touchdowns, because he hasn't really been doing that a whole lot this year. But Zeke looked really good against the Niners in that first half. He was gashing them. He had a season-long 11-yard gain, which was just kind of laughable that's Ezekiel Elliott's season long. But to start this game, the Cowboys were averaging over 40 yards or over 4 yards a rush, and they were out rushing the 49ers in the first part of this game early on. And it was concerning seeing how this defense was just allowing the Cowboys to get first downs. That you allowed Turpin to take a rush for 11 yards on a 3rd and 9 to convert a first. And the 49ers run defense just looked not great. And you also had, we talked about in the open, the injuries to Deebo and to Jordan Mason, which we'll get to in a little bit. But they also had a injury at linebacker. D. Winters came out of the game with a head injury. I'm assuming he's going to be evaluated for a concussion. And I mean, he was evaluated for a concussion after he came out of this one, and then went right to the locker room as for more evaluation. So that's an issue. The 49ers, I mean, D. Winters isn't, the center point of this defense, but you can't afford too many more injuries at the linebacker spot. You are very, very, very thin there. And speaking of being thin, let's just talk about it now too. Deebo Samuel and Jordan Mason, the 2 other positions the 49ers are getting exceedingly thin at, wide receiver and running back. Of course, no Brandon Ayuk for the rest of the season. We haven't seen Christian McCaffrey play yet, and Juwan Jennings has missed the last couple games. So the Niners are really reeling right now with all these injuries, and with Deebo picking up another injury today. He came out with a rib injury. That doesn't really bode too well for the 49ers going forward, man. I mean, Ricky Pearsall looked pretty solid today. He was made a lot of catches over the middle of the field, a lot of tough catches in traffic. He also ended up with a carry for 39 yards. But Pearsall 4 catches, 38 yards. Not the biggest impact day in the box score, but I thought that he did a good job, especially early on in this game, helping the 49ers get this offense moving. That first drive, the Niners got down and kicked a field goal. A huge pass to Deebo on the play. One thing that we saw the 49ers offense kind of get back this week that we didn't see much of against the Chiefs is those explosive plays came back. A big 47-yarder to Deebo, and I mean, flip the field, put the Niners in Cowboys territory. But over and over again, the Niners had bad penalties in this in key moments that really put them behind the chains. In this drive, that happened as well. A holding call on Juice put them behind the chains, forced Carlson to kick a 50-yard field goal. He drilled it. Niners took an early 3-0 lead. And the Cowboys early on were really attacking the 49ers linebackers in pass coverage, especially Devondre Campbell. Yeah, it felt like they were just picking on him. I got CeeDee Lamb isolated on him a couple times early in the game. But Dak Prescott, this guy in my fantasy league, I'm going to talk about my fantasy league just for a second here, but with good intention. I mean, there's a team in my league that they named their team Dak Pick, and they put their avatar image as like a picture of Dak Prescott. And the reason that he did this is because Dak Prescott inevitably is going to throw a pick every single game, at least a couple, it seems like. And today he got it going early on. He threw aired out a deep ball to Brown. Pass protection broke down on the play. Bosa hit Dak right as he tried to step into the throw. And Brown picked him off. We also saw Dak throw a pick to Deommodore Lenoir later on in this game in the second half. That Lenoir interception was awesome, man. The way that he read that play all the way down the sideline outside the numbers against one of the best receivers in the NFL, CeeDee Lamb. And Deommodore Lenoir has really come into his own a lot this season and last year as well. He's really taken some steps forward, and that's great for the 49ers because Charvarius Ward seems to be taking some steps backwards as Lenoir is getting a little bit better. I mean, you look, I know the Pro Football Focus ranks are not the end all be all of if a player is good or not, but you look through when they're doing the Sunday Night Football introductions and all that, and there's quite a lot of 49ers who are, pretty far down in the bottom half of the PFF lists for rankings at their positions. And that's, again, not the end all be all, but it is kind of a little benchmark that you can use to determine if a guy's been, playing as well as they could and ranking it in relative to where they've been ranked in years past. And Charvarius Ward, man, bottom half of the NFL in corners for Pro Football Focus rankings, but he's been bad this year. He's had penalties. He had a DPI in the end zone today. He just has not been that great on the outside. Definitely not when we saw him at an all-pro level last year. He's just not that same level right now. And the 49ers defense has been kind of paying the price with this, the back end of it being, the inexperience at safety and the Ward kind of taking a step back without Lenoir taking that step forward. The secondary would be a bigger problem than it already kind of is. It's not a massive problem that the 49ers have. Today, Dak Prescott had 243 yards, 6.4 yards per pass. It's pretty solid, a 79.2 quarterback rating, a couple of picks. The 49ers did a decent job on Dak Prescott, and they really clamped down on the run defense in the second half. The halftime adjustments for the 49ers were massive. And, of course, Jordan Mason came out of this game, re-injured that shoulder after just 6 carries, 18 yards for Mason. And the 49ers run game looked bottled up when he was trying to get that going. In comes Isaac Guerendo, the rookie, 4th-round pick. And we've seen him a couple times this year, and he's flashed a few times before. But, man, oh, man, 6.1 yards per carry today, a touchdown, 85 total yards on 14 carries. And I felt like he just had every time he touched the ball, he was falling forward for a first down. This guy just kept the chains moving for the 49ers and really gave this offense a shot in the arm. And it's the Shanahan way, man. You just keep finding these late rounds or undrafted running backs and turning them into superstars. First it was Jordan Mason this season. Now Isaac Guerendo maybe is going to have to carry the load for, maybe next week. And without depending on how long Jordan Mason is out with this injury for, we'll see the Buccaneers on the 10th. So the 49ers go into the bye. I said next week for Guerendo having to carry the offense, but maybe that would be after the bye week, obviously, because they don't play next week. So with the bye, it gives time for the 49ers to get healthy, and they really need it. They are ailing right now. Could we see a CMC return after the bye? Could we see, I'm assuming Deebo Samuel is going to be healthy enough to play going forward. He did pick up the ribs, and he's got a million different ailments. He just had pneumonia, somehow managed to not miss a game in between dealing with all that. So good for him. Tough dude, very, very tough dude. We already know this about Deebo, though. And also the other guy that we didn't really mention today, tight end guy, George Kittle on National Tight End Day, really stepped up for the 49ers. A big, big day for George Kittle in this win. Let's talk about Kittle's big day on the other side. He's been awesome for the 49ers this last couple weeks, and he's been a big part of their red zone success. Let's take a quick break here on the Locked On 49ers postcast. That and more next. Stick with us. Today's episode of the Locked On 49ers postcast is brought to you by LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within just 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. LinkedIn is also constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They even just launched a new feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. And of course, 2.5 million small businesses already use LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And today's show is also sponsored by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 10 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks. With as little as 4 correct picks, you can turn $10 into 1,000. PrizePicks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out even if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. A big win for the 49ers today. 30-24 over the Cowboys brings the Niners back to 4-4 overall on the season. If you lost today and you went down to 3-5 on the season going into the bye week, that would be not season over level disaster, but you are looking at having to run the table pretty much for the rest of the season. Maybe you got 2 losses you could have afforded in there, and that's just not the position you want to be in coming out of the bye week. So the Niners do themselves a favor with picking up this big win, allow themselves some time to get healthy, and man, oh man, do they need it. You got so many injuries on this team, but one guy who was questionable to play today and did actually play today and showed up big time is George Kittle. And did you expect anything less from the guy who wore the blank Dallas shirt last year? Remember that? The callback to those teams in the 90s? And I love that. I love that from George Kittle. And today the people's tight end picked up where he left off in the prior games that he's had this season. He's been one of the few bright spots for the 49ers in recent weeks. Today, 6 receptions, 128 yards, a touchdown, 7 targets. He had a long of 43, so big explosive plays for Kittle today. He had several 20-plus yarders, and he had that touchdown as well. And that is a big thing because Kyle Shanahan has started calling plays specifically to look for George Kittle in the red zone, and that is huge because the 49ers at the start of the season really did not score a lot of touchdowns. And red zone offense has been something we've talked about every single game so far on these postcasts. Every single week we're talking about how bad the 49ers are at scoring once they get in the red area. And today they were able to score not just the one touchdown to Kittle, but we had Brock Purdy scoring a rushing touchdown. You had Garendo scoring a rushing touchdown. So you scored 3 touchdowns in the red area, and that's something that the 49ers can hang their hat on for today, because that's something that they really haven't done well all season long. But looking for your big tight end in the red zone seems like a no-brainer to me, especially when you're missing CMC, because he is really the reason that the red zone is so wide open for so many different things for the 49ers to do, so many different ways to score when CMC is in the backfield. But Jordan Mason kind of limits that a little bit. Isaac Garendo, I like him, kind of limits that a little bit. He's not Christian McCaffrey. Nobody is out of the backfield catching the ball. With Deebo kind of banged up, that's a little tough. With Ayuk being out, the most precise route runner on the 49ers, someone who can really find a way to get open in tight spaces, that's not really something that Jawan Jennings, the big guy, the biggest wide receiver that they have in the room, he's out. So, you have one option basically right now, and that's George Kittle. That's your best option to score red zone touchdowns. And I need him to have a couple different looks every single game in the red zone. It's essential that the 49ers scheme things up for him. It opens up a lot of the run game as well. It opens up that play action boot. There's so many things that you can do with drawing up plays for Kittle in the red zone. And today the 49ers did it successfully. Brock found a way, and he didn't have the best passing day of his career. 18 of 26, 260 yards, a touchdown, 10 yards per pass average. He did not have any interceptions. Almost had one. He had a very, very, very sketchy play where he looked like he was going to pull it down and run, and then he stopped, and then he backpedaled, and he threw it, and it got tipped, and then it hit another Cowboys' hands and somehow fell incomplete. If that Cowboys defender had held on to that ball, he would have been running, might still be running the other direction for 6 points. That could have been a game-changing play, but the Cowboys dropped that pick, and Brock Purdy lived to see another day, and he really did. Like I said, it wasn't like he was lighting the world on fire offensively, but the way this guy uses his legs every week really, really impresses me. 8 carries, 56 yards for Brock Purdy, and a touchdown, 7 yards per carry average. And he's been so good with the legs. There was a third down where Brock scrambled out to his left, and he kind of did he paused for a second, used the pump fake to freeze the defense for just long enough that he could get to that first down marker and scamper out of bounds. And things like that, the little things that Brock does kind of go unnoticed throughout games. They add up. You have, 1, 2, 3, 4 plays like that, and all of a sudden Brock's ending the game with 50-plus yards rushing and a touchdown. He's very effective on those quarterback sneaks, on those short yardage situations, and we saw him plunge into the end zone today. It was a good day for Brock, and it was a good day for Brock just kind of willing the 49ers to a win. The thing about Brock is that he's not, he doesn't have the best arm. He's not going to go out and throw the ball 80 yards. He's not the most pinpoint accurate guy in the world. He's not the Lamar Jackson out there. He's not scrambling around and just making guys miss, doing ridiculous stuff, just outrunning everybody on the field. But he's got maybe the best football brain of any quarterback that I've seen since, in my lifetime, since Steve Young. For the 49ers. The way that Brock is able to determine what the best way for the 49ers to keep moving down the field is, he's amazing at it. The way that he can cerebrally dissect a defense, the way that this game seems to slow down for him in those pressure moments when the pocket starts to break down, he's got to scamper out and make something happen on his own. And that's when he's at his best. He just makes it happen. He's a winner. And he's shown you that he can win in so many different ways. He doesn't need a perfect game script to go out and win a game. He doesn't need to have 300 yards passing and a couple touchdowns, maybe 2-3 touchdowns on the day to go win. He can do it on the ground. He can do it with just getting first downs and just keeping the offense on schedule. And he can also go out there, and we've seen him do the 350-yard, 3-touchdown thing before. But that's for sure in his repertoire. He's got that in the bag. But Brock Purdy, every week, seems to show you a little something that you didn't really know he could do. And this isn't like this is still the first year of Brock Purdy. We're still seeing this guy kind of do stuff that makes us scratch our head and go, man, I didn't know that guy had that in there. But and it's really impressive to me to see the amount of different ways that Brock Purdy can find to win a game. And I think that's a calling card of a good quarterback. How many different times did you see like a Tom Brady go out there and not have to have 300 yards and 3 touchdowns to win a game? And I mean, yeah, he's, got so many of the all-time leaders, their all-time stat records with passing yards and things like that. But I mean, he wasn't always that guy. He just played forever, but he wasn't always the guy lighting it up for 300 plus yards. He a lot of times just did what he needed to do. Of course, those, crazy years with Randy Moss and all that looked a little different, but there were plenty of years where the Patriots were able to go on and win a Super Bowl where it didn't really look like this offense or their offense was super explosive. And that's kind of what Brock Purdy reminds me a little bit of is he just has that brain, and he doesn't have the best physical abilities of everybody out there on the field, but the brain, I think he's got the best brain out there by far. And he and Shanahan are on the same page a lot of the time with this offense. I mean, you can tell when Shanahan's not on the same page with his quarterback, doesn't look very good usually. And that doesn't happen too often with Brock. It is a luxury to have this guy at quarterback. I mean, do you remember what it was like with Jimmy G? Because I sure as hell do. And you'd have one, two, 3 hospital balls a game come out of that guy's hands. Brock is not throwing hospital balls. He's not just overthrowing guys inexplicably right into wide open defenders' arms. I mean, this is much better than what we've seen from the 49ers quarterback position in so long, in minimum since Pete Kaepernick, probably since before that. I mean, Brock Purdy has really impressed me this year. This has been Brock's best season, I think, to date. I mean, last week he didn't have the best game of his life, but that Chiefs defense is really, really, really tough. And today, a really nice bounce back day for Brock Purdy. This Dallas team looked inspired. I mean, they kind of got into that, we saw that scrum with the pushing and shoving match and kind of gave Dallas some life. I mean, it looked like they were determined to not go out there and get bullied. But after the halftime, whatever speech, whoever was talking at halftime must have had some good things to say, because the 49ers came back out after the half and really bullied the Dallas Cowboys, just absolutely took it to them, started punishing them on the ground, punishing them defensively. Let's get back into that and more coming up next on the Locked On 49ers postcast. Today's show is also sponsored by Game Time. I love live events, from concerts to sporting events and everything in between, and I rely on Game Time to get my tickets. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I also love the all-in pricing feature. Toggling this feature on shows the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. But you got to toggle that feature on. Game Time also gives customers the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And with Game Time ticket coverage, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Receipt of copy does not constitute an order. Again, terms apply. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, and a massive 30-24 win for the 49ers over the Cowboys. And they really needed this one. Really, really, really needed this one. And there were a couple cool moments from this game, that just random things I wanted to make sure we mentioned. It's Pat Willis and Frank Gore getting the 49ers fans hyped before the game, part of the pregame festivities. And anytime you got P. Willie and Frank Gore in the building, it's better. Life is just better with those two guys around. Frank Gore, of course, working with the 49ers this year, and he's around a lot. And I love seeing Frank Gore around the team. Well, he had a nice suit on this morning on the 49ers pregame on NBC. Dante Whitner was talking about how much he liked Frank Gore's suit, which, if you know anything about Dante Whitner, that should not surprise you at all. Dude is like 11 out of 10 on the fashion game all the time. I think I need to start taking some tips from Dante. Maybe we'll get more than just the Ronnie Lott gamer, but do you really need anything other than the Ronnie Lott gamer on the Locked On 49ers postcast from Triple E? I mean, I think that's all you really need, right? And also another fun moment from today, George Kittle hauled in his 500th career catch. That was in the third quarter on a 20-yard game that he had, one of the few that he had today. And I mean, this guy has just been so consistently good for the 49ers, even dating back to the CJ Beathard days. And this guy has just been so consistent, so rock steady. The run blocking is so impressive consistently all the time. The run after the catch, the violence he plays with. It's not just intensity. George Kittle plays with violence. This guy is like going out there looking to pop somebody, and he's going to laugh in your face while he's just drilling you into the ground. And I mean, I just love that. He's a football player through and through, and he's been a blessing for this 49ers team. He does everything. He's Mr. Do-It-All. He's not going to sit there and complain when he doesn't get his catches or his targets. He loves run blocking. How many guys love run blocking when they're as, gifted as George Kittle at catching touchdowns? I mean, it's really hard to find guys who, play like this, who buy into that. And George Kittle, what more can we say about him, man? And he was a big part of those halftime adjustments. It seemed like they really came out of the half looking for Kittle in the passing game, and he's had really good games against Dallas in past years. And today, 128, 7 targets, 6 receptions, and a tutty for George Kittle, an average 21.3 yards per catch. That's absurd. But George Kittle, not the only one who made big adjustments out of halftime. We haven't really talked a whole lot about this 49ers defense and how they really turned stuff around in the second half. I mean, it just felt like the run defense really ratcheted the intensity up, the physicality. The 49ers were started to win at the point of attack on that interior of the defensive line. You saw pass rushers get home a little bit more often in that second half. Overall, the 49ers got 8 quarterback hits on Dak Prescott, and a lot of those came in that second half. He had 2 sacks and 3 TFLs in total. The 49ers did a good job putting Dak on the ground today. I mean, we talked about it earlier. It led to interception when Nick Bosa got in on one of those quarterback hits that forced Dak into throwing that first interception of the game to Jair Brown. The 49ers defense really did a good job in the second half, but I am a little concerned. It feels like every game this 49ers defense has an in-game adjustment that they need to make. They don't always do it. You're missing Drake Greenlaw. When he comes back, will absolutely revolutionize this defense and bring them back to what they used to be, I think. I mean, the middle of this defense just seems vulnerable. The way that the Cowboys came out and attacked the 49ers linebackers in pass coverage to start this game, the way that they were able to just run the ball up the middle with like 100-year-old Ezekiel Elliott, who's just got a million miles on that body, and he's still just charging forward every single snap. It was just falling forward for a big gain, it felt like. And in the second half, that stopped happening. They walled up that interior of the D-line, and the linebackers were playing up towards the line of scrimmage, being active in that run game. Fred Warner obviously leading the way with 8 total tackles. He had a TFL as well, and a pass deflected and a quarterback hit. Fred Warner doing everything as you would expect him to do. All-pro Fred is the best middle linebacker in the game, bar none. And I mean, he just can't do it all. I mean, Devondre Campbell and D Winters, I mean, they've been, they filled in valiantly, but they're not Drake Greenlaw. And the 49ers miss him a lot. The 49ers are also just I mean, it just seems like they're a little bit slow in the secondary. Mustafa had a couple nice plays. He's kind of coming along. He forced back-to-back plays early on in this one. He deflected what would have been a touchdown catch for a Dallas tight end in the back of the end zone. And then the very next play helped get in on a tackle and help force a fumble that was recovered by Dallas. But it was a great play in the red zone to potentially shift momentum and get the 49ers the ball back. So I do like what I'm seeing from Malik Mustafa. There's a lot of inexperience in that secondary. There's a lot of rotating pieces right now in this 49ers defense. It's not what we're used to seeing at those mainstay positions. Like, we're not used to seeing those linebackers rotate as often. We're the secondary just getting a little bit better each game, but still just has some work to do. I want to see this team. Renardo Green has played pretty well, but again, another rookie who is learning as he goes, and this team is going to get better. But it's been tough so far for the 49ers this season on defense. It feels like every week there's something that goes wrong and they got to fix it. So we'll see if they can get these things right in the bye. We'll come to you live next time that the 49ers have a game against the Buccaneers. It's on the 10th of November 10th, Sunday, November 10th, 10 a.m. Come to you live after that, as we always do on the Locked On 49ers Postcast. That's all the time we got for you guys today. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. We'll see you next time. Peace.